ESPN Tucson 1490 and 1049 FM. I am Zach Clark. This is the Zach Clark Show. Gladly taking those phone calls at 298-1490, 298-1490. That is the All-Pro Plumbing studio line. You can check them out, allprorooterandplumbing.com. Second round of the NFL draft about to get underway, but I am still hooked on last night's first round. It was bizarre. It was exciting. It was shocking. The only thing it wasn't was expected. And as I can only imagine as I'm watching Goodell at the podium, I can feel the breath of the booze all the way here from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Tucson, Arizona. Man, do they hate that guy. But I think most people hate Roger Goodell, or at least the thought of him. And personally, I have no problem with him, but professionally, I certainly do. We're going to hear from Chris Hill at 422. I wasn't on the air when the ESPN layoffs began. They're still going. It's been unsettling for a lot of us, especially those of us in the industry. Not that I compare myself to those that were laid off, because they had certainly gone much further in their careers than I have yet. But anytime somebody like that is unemployed, it makes everybody else uneasy, myself included. Not that I fear for anything, but if Ed Werder is fireable, anybody is. Just remember that. We'll talk a lot of NFL draft in this hour. We'll talk about the Cardinals specifically a little bit later. We'll talk to Erica Weston in the 5 o'clock hour, and we'll mix in some Diamondbacks talk in that hour as well. Now, I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I'm really going to jump in here. Y'all, and I mean y'all, love mock drafts. You love it. 2.0, 3.0, 10.0, 12.0. Mock drafts, as far as sports go, as in like the sports umbrella, mock drafts are top 5 dumbest things, maybe top 3. I don't have any problem saying that. What's the point? What if you watch the preview for a movie and the movie is about something completely different? Like you see this preview and it's like cops and robbers chasing bad guys, action scenes. You get there, rom-com. Would you still like that preview? Would you still watch that preview again next time? No. You said, hey, I was told there was going to be some shootouts and action and, bam! All I see is a sappy love story. Oh, yeah, sorry, you thought the preview was supposed to tell what's going to actually happen? No, we just tell what we think should happen. Yeah, we thought this movie should be about cops and bad guys. But the studio thought rom-com. So, we tried. Oh, that's not how movies work. Oh, okay, good. So the preview is actually about the movie that you will see. Oh, so we want previews to be accurate. Got it. Oh, we don't want previews to be accurate. So, Stacey, you just saw, what was the preview we just saw? Was it Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
Yes.
So you're super pumped for that.
Yes,
what if you went and that was My Little Pony?
Oh, my gosh. My daughter would be excited.
But she would be home with the babysitters. How would you feel?
I'd be okay with it.
But
I ain't going to lie. She's turned me on to My Little Pony.
All right, but you'd be, your sarcasm aside, you'd be okay with it, but you wouldn't be happy about it, right? Because you're going to see Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I pull up these mock drafts, and I see one thing, and then I watch last night, and I'm holding my mock draft, and I go, hey, these guys said nobody got
Hey, it's a mock draft. They're mocking it. They are making fun of it.
Oh, I think they use the term mock as in, like, we're mocking it up, as in we're going to make it look like it's supposed to.
Oh.
Like if I'm designing a car, I've got this big hunk of clay, and I carve it into the car, and I say, this is a mock of what we think the car is going to look like, or what the car should look like, or what the car will look like. And then somehow you got the Aztec. See? That's how you get a mock draft.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah,
you end up with a Pontiac Aztec.
That is what a mock draft is. The mock drafts is the Pontiac Aztec of the sports world. Nobody needs it. Nobody wants to buy one. Looking at them sucks. You don't want to drive it. It's awful.
But yet somebody got paid big bucks to create it.
And people bought them. Boom. Mock draft, Pontiac Aztec. They live in the same room. They sleep in the same bed. They make out at night. They're the same thing. Stupid. I was listening to Dan Le Batard. Don't ask me why. Oh, I work here. That's right. And he said something, and it was about how dumb mock drafts were, and I thought, oh, my God, I'm having a stroke.
You're turning into Dan Le Batard.
No, because then he said a bunch of other things right after that I said, oh, my God, this guy's crazy. What did he say? The NFL draft only peddles hope. And he was the only one that had the balls to on ESPN this morning and say that? Yeah, that's what he said next. So, no, I'm not
Okay.
Yeah, right. That was how it went. I was like, oh, nice, Le Batard. And then 5 minutes later, I was like, oh. Alrighty then. Nothing more to see here, people. Move along. Move along. A lot of people are really loving on John Lynch today. And you know what? Good for John Lynch. He was at the right place at the right time, and he did the right thing. Yep. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, he fell into a perfect situation for him.
Sometimes you find $10 on the ground. Sometimes you find $100 on the ground.
It happens.
Right. So I acknowledge that. Yes. Good. And for the Niners, this is perfect.
But you know what? He's the one who had to say yes to that deal.
Absolutely. You know, the old lame phrase, it takes two to tango, and the deal doesn't happen if John Lynch says no. Now, you're saying to yourself, Zach, nobody would say no to that. I agree. Why would you? But still, John Lynch is having a good day. He had a great day yesterday. The Niners had a great day. And when you're a franchise that is that terrible at the moment, not historically speaking, they're one of the proudest franchises the NFL has. Unbelievable they're in this spot, but it is what it is. But you needed that. When you're so far behind in a race, when you're so far behind in your job, you need a break. Something's got to catch. And it did. But I have to say, let's not put John Lynch in the General Manager's Hall of Fame yet. Because he didn't actually do that. Oh,
gosh, no.
He was part of it, but he wasn't the catalyst.
It's been one move so far.
And it wasn't even his move. He just accepted it. Somebody else propositioned the move, and because there's no way he called and said, all right, I'll give you the second pick, you got to give me this. It went the other way. Ryan Pace says, oh, my God, I'm going to throw up. Hey, John. Hold on. Hey, John, I got to make it. I'm going to be sick. I got to make a trade. I'm freaking out. I need Mitch Trubisky. So if we're talking about John Lynch, then if we're going to give John Lynch a hand, we have to be beating Ryan Pace over the head with a club. Like a really, really big club. Like if some giant were to cut a baseball bat out of a tree. I mean, just bludgeoning him. Because this has to be one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. We took a phone call earlier, and the caller said that, well, I don't think he was afraid of the Niners making that move. He was afraid of somebody else being that incredibly stupid and making that decision. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't know why Ryan Pace did what Ryan Pace did. I would suggest he panicked. He got scared. He felt that he had to have a quarterback. Maybe he blacked out and forgot they had Mike Glennon. Oh, my God, we need a quarterback. No! We have Glennon. Who? No, draft a quarterback. Make the trade. Look, this move is stupid if they don't have Mike Glennon. That's all there is to it. But because you do have Mike Glennon, this might be the dumbest thing. I've seen Mark Davis's haircut. Okay. This might be the second dumbest thing that I've ever seen. Outside of Mark Davis's haircut.
Well, I mean, and you just went and got Glennon. I mean,
just like a month or two ago.
And you have so many other needs.
Does Mike Glennon have this like pheromone that he exerts that when you around him you say, "Oh my God, I got to draft a quarterback." Hey, what's that? Oh, Mike, you smell nice. Hey, we should draft a quarterback. Keeps happening to him.
Man, the Cardinals need to pick him up.
Oh my God! And then you get to the Cardinals, right? And you say, okay, well, the Cardinals I bet would have taken Trubisky if you get him at 13. Okay,
yeah.
We know they loved Patrick Mahomes. We know that, and the Chiefs did.
What?
I don't know what that. I got to know, like, what is the rationale there?
So switching picks, giving them a third this year and a first next year.
Yeah, they give up a first-round pick to draft a quarterback that nobody's really high on. And I'm not saying Alex Smith is a great quarterback, but he's not the reason this team is not going further.
Mm-hmm.
If you're asking me, it's Andy Reid. He's got a limit. He's got a block. He only can go. He's like an electric car. It only goes so far from home. They go further than they used to. Yeah, but still not all the way. So I don't know what they're doing. And then what's the message? What's the message? I mean, if you're Kansas City and we talk about this proverbial window, and everybody in the NFL, it's like everybody in the NFL has one in their stadium. They have one window, and it's either open or closed. Hey, look at the Cardinals over there. No, window's open. Excellent. So I would assume that at Arrowhead Stadium the window would be open. We talk about this window. Of course, I'm talking about the Super Bowl window. I would say open. And so because I say open, you don't stockpile for later. You go out now. Now, I will back up just a little tiny bit, Stacy. This move is crazy. They gave up way too much to do it. If we're talking about a different quarterback, a more, not a sure bet, but just somebody with a little bit more than what a guy like Patrick Mahomes has, then maybe this is okay. And with the Cardinals, if they would have done this a couple of years ago.
Name me the last top 25 team Mahomes beat.
I believe I believe if you put Trubisky and Mahomes together, is it 0 or is it 1 apiece? I think they each beat 1.
I don't think Mahomes has any.
Well, here's the stat that I saw.
Trubisky has a couple.
So if you add Trubisky and Mahomes together, they have 2 wins over top 25 teams. Deshaun Watson has 3 wins in the college football playoff. And here's the thing.
He was a third quarterback taken.
They were taken out of order. In fact, I think you should go in the exact opposite order they were taken. I leave Mahomes in the middle. I don't even think about Trubisky. I mean, if you can get him at like, where did they get Paxton Lynch last year? Denver. 31, 32, something like that, right?
Okay.
Would I take Trubisky there?
Maybe.
Well, the Niners picked 31st. If I'm San Francisco, they took Reuben Foster, whom I don't understand why the Cardinals didn't. Well, I do understand why the Cardinals didn't. I'm going to get to that a little bit later. I could be wrong about this, but I have an idea, and that's why they passed on Reuben Foster. We'll get to that a little bit later. But, I mean, if I'm San Francisco, Stacy, and Trubisky's there, or really if any quarterback is there at 31, do you think they take one? I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I love this Reuben Foster pick. They need a Navarro Bowman. They need another Patrick Willis, right? But they also, do they have a quarterback on the roster?
Sure.
Right. So maybe it happens there, or could New Orleans do it at 32? Could they have gone there? Because, I mean, Stacey, let's be honest, Drew Brees has been an amazing quarterback, wildly productive, but his expiration date, not in life, but in football, is sooner rather than later, and much sooner rather than later. So, yeah, I'll take Trubisky in the bottom, or even the Steelers.
But not number 2 overall.
No! If I'm going to trade up like that, I'm taking the winner. Give me Deshaun Watson. But if I'm anybody, look, especially if I'm a bad team, San Francisco, Chicago, even the Browns, next year's quarterback draft is going to be so much better. Take somebody else, be bad again, and then you will be right there when the pickings are a lot more plentiful. That's what I would have done. Fill another need and sit on that quarterback and wait. But one person panicked, and Ryan Pace vomits all over himself. One person panicked, and everybody else followed. It's like if you're...
It's like vomiting.
Well,
you see somebody else vomit, makes you nauseous, makes you want to vomit.
Or, and I don't want to make light of things, but if somebody yells fire in a movie theater without a fire, people are going to run. And somebody yelled fire last night in Philadelphia, and everybody ran. And this is what happened. You know who didn't do that, Stacey? You know who didn't do that is Cleveland. I am in love with what Cleveland has done here. Look, they did an amazing job. First of all, they were at the right place at the right time, and they didn't screw it up.
Yes.
You take Myles Garrett, you take the best player available, hands down, he's yours. And he seemed excited. Like he wants to be part of something. And once you build that culture, that momentum, once you get that driving forward in people, it really changes things. And then they go tight end. They had 3 picks in the first round. I mean, Gary Barnidge was their best player last year on offense, but it's like, being the sharpest spoon. Who cares? You're all spoons. And then they gambled there in the middle with Jabril Peppers. And look, if you're going to gamble on a kid, give me the freak athlete. Give me the kid that can do 4 things. Good Lord knows the Browns have a bunch of needs. Let's see if I can find one kid that may be able to fill a couple of them, at least temporarily. So I like what Cleveland did. And we talked about them having an opportunity to get this right. And we talked about all those teams early on in the draft with that opportunity. And I feel like the Niners took advantage of it. The Browns took advantage of it. And the Bears lost their keys in the parking lot and never made it in the building. I don't know what happened there. Lastly, we got to move on. I got to get to Chris Hill. The Panthers. The Panthers. Nobody's talking about that first pick. McCaffrey, Newton in the backfield. That has the recipe to be beyond productive. All right, we're going to talk some sports business. We're going to see if we can't analyze what's happening behind the scenes at ESPN and where we're going. Chris Hill from the Motley Fool joins us next in ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. The 11th annual Stella Artois Iron Chef Tucson is June 3rd. Before we get to the Iron Chef, we'll have to know who will be competing. Join us Wednesday, May 3rd at the Rialto for Meet the Chefs, sponsored by Rio Nuevo. Then go to ESPNTucson.com and vote for who you want to see in the competition. Always, always, always one of my favorite nights of the year. When we get back to the NFL draft, I want to talk Cardinals specific at about 4:35. And then we'll get to the NBA playoffs at the end of the hour. We'll talk D-backs in the 5 o'clock hour. Erica Weston joins us at 5:22. Our next guest is somebody that I enjoy having on as much as we can, but we don't always get the opportunity because the subject matter doesn't always allow for that. But with what's happening at ESPN, with the cord cutting leading to now these massive layoffs, I wanted to explore a little bit about the business side of things with sports and where we think we're going. And so I sat down with one of the smartest money guys in the country. He hosts the Motley Fool radio show and the Market Foolery podcast. We talked to Chris Hill a little earlier. Take a listen. Chance to connect and talk a little money, talk a little numbers. But before we get into all of that, you as a sports fan, how did these ESPN layoffs hit you? I'm kind of still in a state of shock. I mean, Ed Werder is unemployed.
That was exactly my reaction when I started to see the names come out, and that was the first one that made me just sort of stop and go, oh, wait a minute. What do you mean I'm not going to see Ed Werder? The guy's just a mainstay and so smart and so trusted. And as a sports fan, it does kind of hit you. And it's one of those things that you don't necessarily think about until it starts to become real and you realize, oh, this person I've been listening to on the radio or this person that I'm used to seeing bringing me inside information on the teams that I care about, they're not going to be around anymore. And that's at least on ESPN. So hopefully with his resume, Ed Werder is going to be out of a job for, like an hour and a half.
Yeah, you and I can only hope. My fingers are crossed for Ed and for all of those folks. And, Chris, right now there are a variety of opinions on the cause of these layoffs, ranging from political to financial. From your seat, what do you think is driving these cutbacks?
Well, at the Motley Fool, we focus on businesses, and this is very much a financial decision. And it's unfortunate when you see layoffs in any industry, but it sort of hits home more for us as sports fans when it's someone we're used to seeing. Mm-hmm. ESPN, part of the Disney empire, I don't think it's a secret that ESPN has been losing subscribers because cable television has been losing subscribers. And so it's not that ESPN is losing money, it's just not making as much money as it has in the past. But ESPN has a lot of financial commitments in the way of sports media broadcast rights that they've locked up. And so last year, they took a long, hard look at some of the highest-priced people that they had really over the last couple of years and chose either to let them go or to let them sort of walk away at the end of their contracts. And what we're seeing this week is a lot more people in the broadcast space who are unfortunately being shown the door.
Chris Hill joining us on the All-Pro Plumbing studio line. And Chris, without being overly political, because I try to stay as far away from that as I can, I have to wonder if this is like the president and coal. Is ESPN trying to fix a problem that really maybe not be able to be fixed?
It's a great question because I think that, you can look at the financial numbers involved here, and if you're ESPN, you can say, you know what, we have to cut costs. By the same token, I think there's an element here that is just unknown to ESPN, and that's not a knock on ESPN. Mm-hmm. I think it's just unknown in general, and that is sort of what does sports television programming look like from a human resource standpoint? What does that look like in 5 years, in 10 years? Are we going to be getting it in the same way? Are we going to need the same level of reporting? If not, what's going to replace it? So I think there, in some ways, the layoffs that we saw this week from ESPN was ESPN being, in some ways, overly cautious and figuring that if 6 months from now they realize, you know what, we've got the money and we need some of these people back in place, then maybe they get to hire some of them back.
Ooh, wow, that's a risky proposition, with especially some of the people that we've already talked about. How do companies like ESPN sell this to customers? And I know that, Chris, you're absolutely right that there's been cord cutting, but there are still people like me that have not cut the cord and that are still paying for things like this. How do they sell me that what they did is not going to affect their overall product?
That's the million-dollar question, no pun intended. I mean, that is the issue that ESPN has now put itself in a position to deal with. They have to answer that very question because sports fans have a lot of choices, and like you, I haven't cut the cord either. But I know, just as we know when we're watching a game, we know if the referees aren't doing a good job. We know if the umpires aren't doing a good job. We know if the reporters and the play-by-play announcers and the in-studio talent, we know if they're not doing a good job either. And so ESPN is hoping that they made the right financial decision, but now they need to make sure that whoever is going to backfill these positions that have been cut, they're going to step up and demonstrate the same level of talent and intelligence and commitment that we saw from people like Ed Werder for so many years.
And Chris, I don't follow the market maybe as closely as I should, but when you look at Disney as a stock price, as an entity, has this move done anything to stabilize it, and did it need to be stabilized ahead of time? I guess because you said at the beginning that the problem isn't that they're not making money, they're just making less of it. So what does that do to their market share?
In terms of Disney's stock price, just in the short term, just this past week, this actually did result in a bump up in their price, and that's not particular to Disney and ESPN. A lot of times you'll see a company, it can be a big tech company, announces that IBM is going to lay off 5,000 people, and the stock price goes up because that means lower costs, and that's just how Wall Street operates. In terms of the overall stock price, Disney's stock has stabilized over the last few months. For reasons that have nothing to do with ESPN and have everything to do with the movie studios, right, with the huge hits that they've been turning out.
Well, how much does ESPN affect Disney? Well, like how much of the Disney's bottom line is ESPN?
So when you think about the Disney empire, think about the different buckets that they have. One is the studio, is the theme parks. That's right, one division. Right. You've got consumer products. That's a division. And then you've got the studios division, which is really movies. But then you have the media division. That is the biggest piece of pie in the Disney empire. When you think about ESPN and ABC and all of the television networks, that is the biggest piece of pie in Disney's business. So when you think about how, for years they called ESPN the goose that laid the golden egg, right, because all it did was print money for the network. Again, still making money, it's just less of it, and the trend has gone on long enough that it's reasonable and fair to expect that ESPN is going to have fewer subscribers next year than it does right now.
So then as we kind of dovetail off of what you said right there have been people like Clay Travis, Colin Cowherd that certainly have strong opinions in other areas, but they've taken direct aim at ESPN for a variety of reasons, and they predict that this is going to be something that continues to happen. I mean, not just right now, but for years to come. Colin Cowherd even said it'll happen every year. What do you think about that?
I have two thoughts about that. The first is I'd be very surprised if ESPN laid off 10% of their on-air talent every single year. Yeah. I just don't see that happening. And the second thing is I would caution Colin Cowherd or anyone at another network to remember the old saying about people in glass houses.
Right.
Because he's part of Fox Sports. And they have their own financial commitments that they're dealing with as well.
Well, and that's the thing. That was kind of what I was thinking when I was listening to Colin. I mean, we talk about people that are really highly paid, and good Lord, he is no doubt one of them. Will companies like Fox and Fox Sports and Fox Sports 1, or even like Clay Travis, who is a subsidiary without Kick the Coverage, will they be safe from all of this?
Well, I mean, Fox and Fox Sports 1, not as big as ESPN, right, but, in terms of staff, but they're also not in as many homes. They're not as profitable. They don't mean as much to the Fox empire, but they still have, Fox as a corporate parent is still on the hook. When you look at the media rights that they're on the hook for in terms of sports media, they're paying the NFL $10 billion over the next decade. Major League Baseball, $4 billion. NASCAR, $4 billion. That doesn't even include FIFA World Cup, college football, college sports.
U.S. Open.
U.S. Open. They've got their own commitments, their own debts to be paid, if you will. And so if they're not smart about the way that they manage their own cord cutting and their own staff expenses, then at some point down the line, we could easily be talking about on-air talent at Fox Sports being laid off.
And then what I have to wonder, and this is kind of off the track a little bit, but like where does this go? And we kind of talked about this earlier. I've been trying to picture in my head like 5 years from now what everything's going to look like, because ESPN has been somewhat standard for a long time, and I think that has changed.
It's a great question. I mean, I think that, in terms of where do you absolutely need talent? Well, I think you absolutely need it at the game itself. You need people who are calling the game, and you need good people who are calling the games. I mean, you're a sports fan. Your listeners are sports fans. A good announcer, a good play-by-play person, they make all the difference in the world. So I think it starts there as sort of like a non-negotiable thing. And then I think you have to look at, okay, what do we need in terms of before and after the games, in terms of studio talent? What do we need in terms of reporters on the ground? And are those full-time employees, or do we staff that out on a contractor basis?
I guess I don't want to see anybody else lose their job, but I just can't wait to see where this goes. Chris Hill is the host of the Motley Fool Money radio show and the Market Foolery podcast. For more from Chris, go to fool.com/podcast and on Twitter at TMFChris. Always a pleasure when we cross paths, Chris. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Zach. Anytime.
Always great talking sports business with our friend Chris Hill, and definitely check out the Market Fool radio show, one of my favorites out there. The Cardinals have just selected safety Budda Baker out of Washington, a guy that got a ton of run over the last couple of years from being just an athletic freak, a guy that can play both ways. We'll talk about him next and what the Arizona Cardinals did last night, next on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. Now, Mattress Firm, they have themselves a lot of sales. They have a lot of sales. You're thinking to yourself, Zach, I feel like they're always having a sale. That may be true, but they have never had a sale quite like this one. I mean, even the folks at Mattress Firm have impressed themselves. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save tens of thousands of dollars here. That the amount of equity that you can get in these mattresses, up to 70% savings, up to $2,000 off of floor models. And at Mattress Firm, they're never going to sell you no-name brands or anything that's not the best of quality. So we're talking top-name brands, top quality, and at huge savings, up to 70% off, up to $2,000 off of floor models. And this sale's not going to last forever. When the inventory is gone, the sale is over. So don't be one of those people that waits and waits and waits and then misses their opportunity to save incredibly. I mean, 70% off, up to $2,000 off of floor models. And all you have to do is go to Mattress Firm. That's mattressfirm.com today. Get that good night's sleep you deserve.
This is ESPN Tucson Traffic.
Eric's IRS troubles were nasty.
I had 10 years of unpaid tax returns. I owed $83,000. I might have wound up in jail.
And unbelievably complex.
Things that are written in the tax code are so complicated that if you don't pay a tax professional to do your taxes, you're going to screw up. This was such a complex problem, I did not think anybody could solve it.
Eric's whole life was about to go down the drain, so he called Optima Tax Relief.
Optima was able to make sense out of a huge disaster, and Optima stopped it.
To say the least, Eric was very relieved.
They got me out of hot water, that's for sure. Optima saved me a boatload of money and got me out of a horribly complex situation. If not for Optima, I might be in jail right now.
Got a nasty, confusing tax problem? Do what Eric did and call Optima right now for a free consultation. Call 800-375-2922. 800-375-2922. 800-375-2922.
Optima Tax Relief.
Coco and Mom's Cantina has new spring hours, open Tuesday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday and Sunday, 7 to 9. Enjoy all your favorite dishes featuring their special blend of red and green Hatch, New Mexico chilies. And if you can't dine in, then take and bake. Take your favorites home and pop them in the oven to enjoy at your leisure. Call by 2 to place your order, pick up at 5. Take and bake from Poco and Mom's Cantina on East Tanque Verde. Open Tuesday through Friday, 9 to 9, Saturday and Sunday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
ESPN Tucson 1490 and 1049 FM. I'm Zach Clark. Great to be with you on this, Friday afternoon. Second round of the NFL draft is ongoing. The Cardinals have already selected. Let's jump into that right now. And Stacey, you didn't seem too enthusiastic. The Cardinals definitely need defensive backfield help.
They do.
I think they probably need cornerback help a little more than safety help, but Budda Baker is one of those guys, we've been watching him play at Washington now for a few years.
Kind of a freak athlete.
And I love kids like that. Now, sometimes kids that are freak athletes have a hard time finding a spot. If you're like this is a different sport, and I know it's mixing metaphors here, but like a Derek Williams, dude is athletic as all get out, but he just didn't fit.
You still need to know the X's and O's when it comes to the sport.
And you still have to have the right parameters, the right measurement. So, I don't mind the pick. They needed defensive back help. And here's one thing I don't want them to do today. I think their opportunity for taking a quarterback is gone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they
no.
try.
I'm not saying get a quarterback
No.
now.
But I'm telling them not to think about that today or tomorrow.
I think that ship sailed.
Yeah, I think if you were going to do it, it's got to be in the first round, and they didn't do it. And I'm still not sure if they were going to or not. I like to think they were, but the point you made earlier, Stacey, saying, well, if they were going to, why didn't they just do it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you felt trade pressure behind you, you should be the one. But at the same time, Stacey, you also said that they shouldn't mortgage their future because there's no quarterback that's worth that on the board.
No. Listen, Palmer turns 38 this year.
Correct.
I know he wants to play for a while more, but
good for him.
How much more can you really get out of him? Yeah,
you can't.
You're getting a year or two.
He's like me. We're not getting taller, bro. We're only getting shorter. Welcome. So yeah, you're absolutely right. They need to do something about the quarterback. But they probably should have done something about it a year ago, 2 years ago. And, oh, yeah, we tried. No, you didn't. You hoped to get lucky with Logan Thomas, and you didn't. You didn't try. You said, throw the fans a bone, and maybe we'll get lucky here. You know, Dak Prescott, 4th round. Ooh, I know this was before that, but they didn't try. Hey, if it doesn't work out, he can play tight end for you. Or the Bills, because that's what's happening now. So I don't want I'm not. Do I want Davis Webb or Deshaun Kaiser if I'm the Cardinals? No. I mean, Davis Webb, if I'm going to take anybody, I'll wait on Davis Webb for later. Or, Dobson or Kaya.
None of them impress me enough to warrant a pick on them.
Yeah, Shania Twain once said that don't impress me much.
Yeah, it's at this point, you just maybe look at picking somebody up in free agency.
Well, I don't think you do anything. I don't think because you don't need a quarterback. The reason that I wanted
you're going to need a backup. You're going to need
right.
At the age Palmer's at, likelihood of him getting injured and being able to come back quickly, not good.
Don't they still have what's his face?
Stanton?
Yeah, he's a fine backup though. Man, he sucked last year. He was terrible when he had the opportunity. But you don't think too much about the backup until you have to use it, and by that time, it's too late. There's no question about that. But fine, if you're going to go get a backup. But, Stacey, what I'm talking about is what they're going to go get long-term. You want to get somebody to fill in now in case Palmer gets hurt?
You're not going to get that now.
No, you're not. That's my point. It's time to move on, which is tough because –
and that's why I'm saying if you are going to get a quarterback, you pick him up in free agency as a backup.
Yeah, but – how brutal is
and then next year you're going to have to address it.
But then that kid's going to have to play, likely. And the Cardinals.
It's a situation they've put themselves in. It's a situation at this point you just have to deal with it.
I think
there's nothing you can do about it.
No, and I think they should have addressed this a year ago anyway.
I agree with you.
Don't let your feet get so close to the
fire,
man.
2 years ago.
We tried. No, you didn't. You did not try. So let's talk about what happened yesterday. And if you're the Cardinals, it's like there's no way you could have seen any of that coming, right? Because there was rumblings that they would want to take a quarterback, or maybe even some thought that they might take a wide receiver, Corey Davis, or Mike Williams, if they were to fall. Neither one of them did. That's the thing. They were hoping some guys were going to fall, right? You hope one of the quarterbacks falls to you. They had to think for sure one of the quarterbacks would fall to them. They didn't. Both of the wide receivers they tended to like didn't. But what I want to know, and if you want to weigh in at 298-1490 on the All-Pro Plumbing studio line, go for it. Why not Reuben Foster? Look, I'm not an X's and O's expert. I can't look at tape like some of these guys can and pull the same things they can. This is not my job day in and day out to evaluate talent in college and professional football. But when I look at Reuben Foster, and I look at what Reuben Foster did at Alabama against, when we talk about offensive and defensive lines, where do you go first? I go to the SEC. I don't know where you go. That's where I go. And Reuben Foster did it against the best. He did it against the best. Now, that doesn't mean that Hassan can't deliver, that he can't be a good player. Hassan Reddick, that doesn't mean that he can't be. But when I think about football, I don't think of the Mac. What about Khalil Mack? Yeah, he did Buffalo, right? And you could also say with Khalil Mack that he only had one really productive season. That's the same thing that I would say about Hassan Reddick, that really he had one big season at a MAC school. I don't know. I have to wonder, were they afraid? Maybe afraid is not the right word. Did they get some caution injected into them last year when they drafted Robert Nkemdiche? And I'm not saying that's a bad pick. We don't know yet. But, Stacey, they were hoping that everybody slept on him and that they were just going to be jackpot city. And it's not what happened. He had one sack last year, and he wasn't ready. He had some injuries. It took him a while to get acclimated.
I think it's a situation where Reuben Foster, the last couple of months, he really hurt himself.
Sure. No favors.
Obviously, the situation in the hospital with the nurse.
At the combine.
At the combine.
And it happened before the measurements.
then also the situation with his diluted drug test. It seems to me, and I've heard stats on it and stuff, that when stuff like that happens, especially with the drug test, hardly ever does it work out well for that individual.
Well, I mean,
very rarely do they actually perform and do well at the NFL level.
And how surprising is that, right? Because we're talking about the ability to make, and I know people make mistakes, and we're talking about young people, but a lot of times your performance, whether you are skilled or not, is about your ability to make the right judgment.
Yeah. So I think it's a situation where, due to those circumstances, due to what has happened to them in the past, like you said last year with Kimdiche.
And that still might not be a bad pick. We don't know yet.
I don't think they were willing to take that flyer on Reuben Foster, knowing that in the past it hasn't worked out.
So you're saying the answer to my question is yes?
Yes.
Maybe it's not that. Well, I may have oversimplified what's happening, but as we do in life, we make risk assessment, Oh, man, I don't want to wait for the crosswalk. I want to cross now. But then you look in the street and there are cars coming. Are you going to cross? No, it's not worth it. And so the Cardinals didn't think that it was they weren't in the mood for a project. Now, I would argue that they may have drafted one, but in a different way.
Okay, Reddick in himself, is he a project? Perhaps. Throughout his, career there at Temple, his 4 years there, he progressively got better.
But it started very minimally, though. This is a walk-on, if I'm not mistaken.
So, but you're dealing, he had 43 tackles last year, 22 of them for loss.
Sure.
I'm not saying he can't play.
I'm not saying that either. I'm not saying that either. I have to wonder if they pass on a better talent to get a little more assurity that they're not going to have to worry. And I think
that's the case.
I do too. We're going to come back to some major storylines from last night's wacky and wild NFL draft at 5:05. Let's jump back into the NBA playoffs next on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. ESPN Tucson 1490 and 1049 FM. I'm Zach Clark. It's great to be with you. For those of you that are having a blast with us with the Corona prize packs, Stacy, is the word there on the bottom of the screen?
It is now.
Alrighty, and you can see I'm holding it up in front of my. Can you see it on the screen too?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm not going to say the word out loud because to win, what you have to do is translate this phrase that you can only see on our Facebook page, right? On our live stream, go to ESPN Tucson, go to ESPN Tucson's Facebook page, facebook.com/ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. Translate this phrase into English. Give it to Charles in English. You're seeing it in Spanish. And you will win an awesome Corona prize pack.
That is correct.
So I'm gonna put this down because my arm is tired. But Stacy will leave it up there for the rest of the segment. First caller at 298-1490, 298-1490. First caller wins an awesome Corona prize pack.
If you do not win the Corona prize pack, go to ESPNTucson.com/Cinco.
Ah, yes.
Register to win a 3-day, 2-night trip to beautiful Puerto Penasco, Mexico.
Rocky Point Hotel.
It is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Well worth
the 2 seconds it'll
entry.
take. The entry which takes nothing for you. All you gotta do is go to our website, ESPNTucson.com/Cinco. Register to win. And again, you want to translate that phrase you see right there and be the first caller. We will hook you up with a Corona prize pack. I love doing giveaways. It's always so much fun. I don't know.
Especially this. I mean,
oh man, they've been awesome.
Corona's been great
They've
to
been
us.
awesome. Yeah, man.
Look at your
I got
6-pack over there.
I got my own prize pack, and the 6-pack is great because
Woo.
well, hey, not only did they give me this cool bucket with beers in it, but they gave Dick Vitale an outfit. I know that's supposed to be a beer koozie, but Dick Vitale looked a little cold over there in bobblehead land, so he's wearing a nice Corona Extra poncho. But yeah, they have been great. And you know, this time of year, Stacy, you get towards Cinco de Mayo, you start feeling a little more summery. Even though you're in Tucson, you kind of always feel that way. But Corona has been great. Next time you're out shopping, throw a few of those in your cart. And then go to ESPNTucson.com/Cinco to win a trip to Rocky Point. That's going to be awesome. Awesome. We can't win, though, because...
But you can take us with you.
That's right. Wait, is it just for 2?
It is for 2, but I also believe if you want to bring 2 other people, it's only like $15 or something. Don't quote me on that one.
Now here's Stacey,
but it's only a few bucks more.
Stacy giving all kinds of erroneous information there. So this comes to a surprise to nobody when we talk about the NBA. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Every year I look at the first round and I go, this is garbage. This is garbage. And sometimes I'm right, because I guess. And this year, I mean, we still haven't had any actual surprises yet, so I'm not totally wrong. But Stacy, whether there are upsets or not, the first round has been entertaining.
There's
been surprises. So
I mean that Clippers Jazz series has had some really good games.
Boston, Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, little surprising there. You know, Chicago taking the first 2 in Boston, Boston coming back taking the next 2 in Chicago, and
Boston's won 3 in a row. I mean, they started down 2-0 and they're up 3-2.
And I think by far the best one has been that Washington-Atlanta series.
Yeah, Washington's up 5 points in the first quarter now. That game, the first of 3 tonight. And I think tonight's NBA slate, for the hoop heads out there, even for the non-hoop heads, drama abound in the NBA playoffs tonight. And these are the last 3 teams, or the last 3 series remaining. Everybody else is done. They've moved on. And just very quickly as we move on, Stacey, I'm very excited for Houston and San Antonio. Mm-hmm. Well, you get the in-state rivalry, and you think, oh, man, Texas, similarities.
No.
That's it. That is it. These 2 teams play in the state of Texas as a home base. They have nothing else in common. Nothing. And to me, I am just...
I mean, it's about 4 hours away from each other.
But it might as well be a world away.
Yeah.
The coaching style, the coaches, the players, the approach.
And just the cities themselves, the cultures there.
Oh, my God.
Completely different.
Not even close. So I love what this series will offer. I think it has the potential to be the best of the second round series. And I still feel like Houston is under the impression that nobody takes them seriously. That they look at James Harden and they say, yeah, you've got him, but what else can you do? If you can knock off the Spurs, there'll be a lot less questions about you. There is no question there. None. All right, let's get back into the NFL draft. The second round is underway, but I want to come back to the madness, the insanity that was last night in Philadelphia. That's next on ESPN Tucson 1490, 104.9 FM.